Number 1. Christmas Pizza. Alright, first off, Chinese restaurants aren't the only places open on Christmas to serve food. When I heard that the pizza parlor I worked for decided they were going to be open for Christmas Day, the majority of my coworkers were pretty pissed off. Me, on the other hand, was quite happy. I didn't really celebrate Christmas, and my boss was offering me time and a half, so I agreed to do delivery throughout the entire day. I didn't really expect it to be busy, and it would be easy money. Well, in spite of advertising that the place was going to be open, we really didn't get much business. I thought at least there would be some cash flow, but it was pretty sucky all around. I did get a few deliveries throughout the day, but it's the call for the delivery at about 8 p.m. that night that I will never forget. I got in the car with the pizza and buffalo wings. The road had been icy all day, and I wasn't too happy about driving on it. Plus, there wasn't a lot of light in the houses of the street that I pulled into. I got to the house I was delivering to, got out, and nearly slipped on the icy sidewalk. I cursed a bit because it always irritated me when people didn't salt their sidewalk. I opened up the gate to the house and looked up at the house. I froze when I saw what looked like a dummy dressed as Santa Claus sitting on the porch. I almost thought it was a real person at first, but that didn't seem realistic. Why the hell would someone be sitting on the porch in a Santa suit in the freezing cold and dark? I walked up to the steps, hesitantly. Again, I didn't think it was a real person. Still, just imagine how creepy it was. It was a long walkway up to the porch, and the entire time my eyes were just fixed on that Santa on the porch. Honestly, I almost just turned around and left. I got up to the steps, climbed them, and then went towards the door. However, as I had mentioned, I couldn't keep my eyes off of the Santa sitting on the porch, and I'm glad I was creeped out by it because right when I was about to ring the doorbell, I saw the Santa move. He moved, and he grabbed a baseball bat that was sitting by his chair that I hadn't seen. I jumped, startled. I slipped on the ice but was able to catch myself from falling down. The pizza and wings fell to the ground, which I really didn't care about. The Santa noticed that I noticed him move, and he moved to get up from his chair. I moved quickly, turned, and took off back towards my car. I slipped a couple more times, but fortunately, so did the Santa with the bat. He slipped and fell on his butt. He yelled at me as I took off, but I safely got to my car. He had only made it to the gate when I put my car into drive. I called the police when I got back to the pizza parlor. They went and checked the house out. Interestingly enough, the people who lived in that house were on vacation. That explains why the sidewalk was not salted. So whoever that was in that Santa suit who tried to attack me, it wasn't the owners of that house.
Number 2. Homeless Santa. It's weird to me that the scariest thing to ever happen to me in my life just happened to happen on Christmas. It's not the time of year you expect scary things to take place. It's supposed to be a time for giving, but I guess that's not always appreciated. Anyway, I live in Madison, Wisconsin. If you know absolutely anything about Wisconsin, you know how absolutely cold things get in the winter. On the Christmas this took place, it was bone-chillingly cold outside. I didn't have family in Madison. I went to college there, and once I graduated, I remained in the city because I liked it so much. So on this day, I really didn't have plans with anyone. So I went to a bar where I knew the bartender and had some drinks on Christmas Eve. I didn't get drunk, really, But by the time I left the bar, it was 2 a.m. on Christmas morning. As I was walking out to my car, I noticed something strange across the street. It looked like a Santa Claus laying on the sidewalk against the building. I was a bit concerned, so I put my keys in my pocket and crossed the street to see what was going on. It was a man dressed in a Santa Claus outfit, and he seemed like he was passed out sleeping against the wall of the building. He had a cardboard sign saying he was cold and needed a place to sleep and was asking for money. I was immediately concerned due to how cold it was outside. I always heard that falling asleep in extremely cold weather could be fatal. I tried waking the guy up, determined to ask him if he had a place to go. He didn't respond at first. I could tell that he was breathing, however, so I at least knew he wasn't dead. I thought about what to do, and I wasn't really sure. I figured I'd give him a little money, and maybe he could get a cheap hotel room to warm up in. I slipped some money into his pocket and tried to wake him up. When he still didn't stir, I figured maybe I needed to go back to the bar and ask the bartender to call the authorities or something. I thought maybe they could take him to a homeless shelter or to a hotel room, or I thought even a jail cell would be better than sleeping in the deadly cold. I was almost all the way across the street when I heard something. It was like a moan. I turned around and saw the Santa staggering to his feet. He then came walking towards me like some sort of Santa zombie. I figured he must have been drunk and frozen. I thought I should go over and help him out, so I began to walk towards the staggering Santa. As I did, I saw him reach into his pocket. I figured he was maybe taking the money out and thanking me or something. Instead, he pulled a switchblade out of his pocket and he lunged at me. Freaked out, I moved out of the way. He was too frozen and stiff to really strike at me with any accuracy, or so I thought, because he struck me at the second time and clipped me. I yelled in pain as he staggered. Despite the pain, I turned and ran to my car, jumped in and locked the door. The Santa came at me and started pounding on my window with a knife. He kept demanding I give him the rest of my money. No longer caring about his welfare, I hit the gas and pulled off. The Santa staggered after me as I drove off, but at that point, he had no chance to catch up to me. All I could think of was that no good Christmas deed goes unpunished.
Number 3. The Christmas Shadow. Believing in make-believe characters, like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, can be really fun for children. It lets them believe in magic, where they're an age where their minds are still capable of such things. You know, before the world of cynicism falls down upon them. But also it can have some bad effects too though. This story isn't very Christmassy. I have to apologise for that right off. Other than the fact that it takes place on Christmas Eve, and has some connections to make-believe characters. It's not really very holiday related. My brother used to tell me that there were all sorts of magical creatures on Christmas, and that all of them were good. Elves, for example, helped Santa Claus deliver presents. He told me about reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, you name it. The point being that I believed in magical Christmas creatures, and I believed that they were all good. And yes, I still believed in Santa Claus when I was 9. So I had been put to bed at 8 o'clock. All I knew was when I woke up, the house was dark and quiet. So I figured that my entire family had gone to bed. I stretched and decided I should just turn over and go back to bed. When I flipped over, I got startled by something in the corner of my bedroom. It was completely dark over there, so I couldn't see it very well at all. But there were the shadows of some sort of figure hanging out in the corner of my bedroom. It was sitting on the floor, or at least that's all I could make out. But there was definitely something there. My first reaction was to be scared. I mean, any young child seeing a shadowy figure in their bedroom in the middle of the night would be scared. right? But then I remembered that it was Christmas Eve. Likely early Christmas morning by the time I'd woken up. So it made sense to me that whatever I saw was likely one of Santa's helpers. He was probably watching over me to make sure that I was asleep. I mean, Santa only brings presents to kids that are asleep, right? It was then that the shadowy figure in the corner stood up. It was by standing up that I was completely positive that there was definitely something in my room. When it stood up, I quickly turned around and told the shadow that I was sorry and that I would go to sleep. I had my head against my pillow for a few minutes, holding my eyes closed as tightly as I could. I was afraid that if I opened them, Santa Claus would leave. Whilst I was laying there, I heard some footsteps approach my bed. All was silent for a few minutes or so, and then I heard the footsteps leave the room. I eventually fell asleep, and everything was fine on Christmas morning in our house. However, at one point during the day, the police came and knocked on our door. It turned out that there had been several break-ins in the neighborhood, and they were just checking with everyone to see if they had witnessed anything. I never forgot that. When I got older, I started wondering if maybe someone had broken into the house. If so, was that them in my room? And if so, why hadn't they stolen anything? I knew I had seen something and heard something. I was just never able to figure out what it was, or why it was there.
Number 4. The Christmas Sneak. I never believed in Santa Claus. It wasn't because of any sort of cynicism or anything like that. It's just that my parents never pretended that Santa Claus was real. I guess both of them believed when they were kids. When they found out that he didn't exist, they both just got really upset, and they didn't want to put me through that as a child. In spite of us not pretending that Santa Claus existed, my parents still went through their regular Christmas rituals. While some presents were under the tree, they didn't put everything out until we were all in bed. They would come down, put extra presents in front of the tree. They would fill the stockings up, and they would turn on the Christmas tree so it would look amazing and beautiful when we woke up in the morning. I was never really able to go to sleep though. Even though I didn't believe in Santa Claus, I was always anxious on Christmas Eve. I couldn't sleep, so I would lay in bed and pretend to go to sleep. I'd listen to my parents as they opened the door to check and see if I was up. Then, I'd listen to them put the presents out and get the tree ready. I always remember exactly how I knew they were done. The light to the upstairs hallway would turn on. I'd hear them come up the stairs, turn out the light, and then go to bed. Once they were in bed, I'd wait a short time. I'd then get up and creep down the steps. There was nothing I ever remember being as beautiful as coming down those stairs, turning into the living room, and seeing the Christmas tree all lit up. The lights reflected off the wall, making it look absolutely colorful and beautiful. I'd look at all the presents for a while. I'd take it all in for about half an hour before finally relaxing enough to go to sleep. I did this for several years and never got caught. When I was 12 on Christmas Eve, I laid in bed. I waited for my parents to go to bed. I was very excited for my Christmas ritual. I mean, it only happens once a year. How could I not be excited? Or after I thought my parents had been in bed for long enough, I got up and snuck out of my room. I went into the hallway, and sure enough, the lights were off. I had to make sure I was quiet as I snuck over to the stairs and walked down them. As usual, as I turned the corner in the banister, I looked, and there was the Christmas tree, illuminating the wall in brilliant colors. There were tons of presents under the tree, and I knew this was going to be an awesome Christmas. As I stood there taking it all in, the lights blinked, and something caught my eye over by the kitchen door. Turning, I saw a man. dressed all in black, standing in the kitchen doorway. He was holding a duffel bag in his hand, and he was looking right at me. I knew I had just walked in on an attempted burglary. He rushed towards me as I tried to turn and run away. He caught me by the arm and pulled me close to him, clamping his hand over my mouth. I panicked and began crying, thinking that right then this guy was going to kill me or something. I struggled, but there was no way that a 12-year-old was going to break the grip this man had on me. I reacted instinctively, I guess. I did the only thing I could. I bit his fingers, causing him to cry out and release my mouth. I then began screaming for my mother and father, and as I screamed, the guy took me and shoved me hard to the ground, hit me in the back of the head, and then ran for the door. He was out the door before my parents made it down the stairs. I told them what happened. My dad went and grabbed his gun and checked around the outside of the house, while my mom called the cops. The guy was picked up that night. He had robbed a few other houses before hitting ours. He was just unfortunate to have picked a house where a kid snuck down to see the tree every year. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. I want to thank both Mortis Media and Being Scared for sharing this collaboration with me. But it's not over, folks. This is a 3-video collaboration, and at the end of this closing, links will appear for both Mortis's video and Being Scared's video. Make sure to check them all out, as I will be a guest narrator in each video. Also, make sure to subscribe to these 2 amazing channels if you haven't already. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the subscribe button below, or wait until the end of this video and use the button that will appear. Feel free to comment on the video to let me know what you think, and share it with someone you might think will enjoy it. Feel free to follow Ichigo and myself on Facebook and Twitter. I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, a very happy holidays to you. And if you don't celebrate any holidays, I hope you're having an awesome Sunday. Oh, and if you don't believe in weekdays, I really don't know what else to say. But even though it's Christmas, you still have to make sure to check in the closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.